a very good point.
Yeah, no, I think it depends who you are really and what you want to do. Like there is no perfect portfolio. I suppose I do have a portfolio, but then I don't. I have a box, and I have things in the box which I find fun. When I went to do this job that I'm doing now, my portfolio at the time consisted of a T-shirt I designed and was, brought in production by some company that I was working for at the time. Pin badges, which made up a poster campaign so it was all just pinned together, but it had all the copy in the art direction, and that wasn't actually what got it done. I just quite liked it, and I put that in the box, and so it's just things I gathered and I really enjoyed, but that was for me, and it represented me, and I think there's no perfect way. It depends what field of you can have the 8 campaigns and then say 3 separate individual pieces. Some people say a lot of the London universities and the London schools do. You start with a poster and then you show how it works out. But I've seen a lot of people that are like, God, that's just such a I won't say what university it is, but they just say it's just such a tried and tested way. You have to find something that represents you personally and how you think. And that can, like I say, and obviously make the craft of it very, very beautiful, like you were saying before. It has to show that you see it. Don't just sort of, like my box is not just like a cardboard box and there's a T-shirt shoved in, but it's something that you really, really feels. If you weren't there, someone would get a mental image of who you are from that, and that's the key thing. I mean, the work itself will constantly change. You'll never ever have the same portfolio, that will, and I think, well, you should change it. I mean, like this is the thing. Like I destroy my portfolios quite regularly and try and rebuild them from memory. And if I can't remember what was in it, then it was obviously rubbish. And that's it. Like it just, you'll constantly, hopefully, keep on working on it and keep on finding a better expression of yourself. And eventually, you'll have something that you'll be wanting to show everyone.
Yeah, I also think don't put in pieces that you don't feel confident about, or you don't fill your portfolio up with the best stuff at the beginning and, tokenistically put rubbish stuff towards the back, and you can't really give any passion to what you've got to show. I think, if you can talk about it and practice talking about it, practice amongst your peers, practice to people that might not be interested in, creative industries career. So I don't know, just practice and be really confident about it.
Yeah, take out any excuses and any would haves, because they're the worst things. If people are showing portfolios now, I would have done this then, if blah blah blah. It's like, well, why didn't you? Don't show me something like that, and don't put any excuses in like, oh, this was going to be a full campaign, but I haven't had time. It's like, well, you have exactly the same time as everyone else, and you're actually wasting my time. By just showing me half-finished things. It's just, those things are the only things I would say. If you find yourself talking through a portfolio, and when you're talking to your friends and go, well, I wanted to, then get rid of it, or finish it. Don't have it in that halfway state. It's just sort of kind of frustrating for both parties.
I mean, there are, as we're speaking, that there are formulas to getting certain things, in place, but then those formulas only take shape by your own unique take on those formulas. So you have a framework of how a portfolio should be structured, and there are many different ones. We've spoken about some here, but then it's then the formula that goes right in the middle, that gives it colour, that gives it its shape, that gives it its uniqueness, that will make it stand out from every other one, because it's you ultimately. So as we were saying, whether it's a portfolio, whether it's the way you've designed it, whether it's what's in it or how it's structured or anything at all, again, your portfolio is going to be uniquely you, because no one hopefully has done your work. It's how that comes across, and like Dan said, when you put it on the table, you can in theory go out the room and leave it there, and then they'll get a feel for what you are simply by looking at your portfolio. You won't need to say, this is that, and this has done that, and this has been there, etc. They'll get that, and bounce ideas off people in terms of how to set it up, what they think of your work, ask your friends and peers whether or not it is you at the end of the day, but also take on board when going to meet people, there's no point in taking, this is just an example, if you're a copywriter, taking a design portfolio to a copywriting job in an advertising agency if you're looking for a design job. It just won't work. So know where you're going in terms of interviews and who you're meeting, and tailor it accordingly. Don't make it not you. Keep it uniquely you, but tailor your portfolio. Make it relevant to who you're. Just like the CV has to be relevant, this 100 times more so. Because again, the CV is just a little bit of information. This is you. This is an extension of you. And it has to be gotten straight away, really.
Yeah, you don't have to have one portfolio as well. I think that's
a very good point, man.
You know, you can have duplicate portfolios, and if you find yourself an illustrator and in a different field, try and separate them rather than trying to come together in one. I used to have 2 portfolios after I kind of got happy with them, just for the simple fact, like I may have given, say, my portfolio to Dan to have a look at, and I would get a call for somewhere else to want to have a look. So from a practical level, that helps, and also, like you say, you can tailor the different portfolios, and you're ready to go in a real quick way. So I think that's something that I learned when I started. And when I finished uni, I only had the one portfolio, and it was precious to me. And I wouldn't, I was just, this is my entire uni. But then after a while, I needed to have several sort of portfolios and slightly different things, so you could just pull out and slip in and know sort of how to express yourself.
I don't know, Dan will tell you now, if let's say Dan came back to me and was looking for a new job, I would personally want to see the work he's been doing over the last couple of years, but at the same time I want to see his ideas. Now, whether or not they're 2 separate books, so run work that's gone to print, and a book of spec ideas and campaigns, I might want to see them separately, I might want to see them together. It really depends on what the work is and how they work together. It might be that they work in perfect tandem together in one book. If so, that would be brilliant. And again, it might work for one agency, whereas another agency might just want to see some run work with a few ideas, or vice versa. So that's where you have to use your knowledge as well of what's out there.
That's where people like, say, Dan, come in incredibly handy. Sort of more, you've sent people to agencies and they know you've got feedback from where, some agencies don't like to see spec work. If you're a certain level in the industry, they're always a bit like, well, surely you should have work that you've done and you're proud of at this point. And other agencies aren't like that. And it's worth, if you are sort of looking around, people like Dan can say, actually, this agency is really about seeing this kind of work that's in your book. So it's again, it's that sort of using advice and sort of people around. There's no perfect sort of answer to it, but there's lots of sort of ways you can find getting close to it for a particular agency.
Vincent, could you? I think I've run the whole gamut of portfolios. Should it be small, neat, big, giant, metal? When I went to Ogilvy's, I had a giant metal one, like all the photographers have waited time. Went to Madrid with that. Terrible in the heat, but it depends where you're going. I'd say I always had about 2 or 3. What will happen a lot, you'll want to leave a portfolio in an agency or with a headhunter, then you can't do anything until you've got a portfolio, if you've left your baby with Dan for a week. So you'll need to have a duplicate, either duplicate laminates or something, so you might even end up with 3. One might be more illustration. Find out where you're going. If they're doing black and white press ads, put the concepts in. If they're doing, colour ads for Disney, put something in that looks a bit like that. So it's a bit like your wardrobe, really. It's how you're dressing up that day.